Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Tuesday that Ukraine had accepted a 30-day ceasefire proposed by the United States, following critical peace talks between the U.S., the United States, and Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia. The ceasefire proposal accepted by Ukraine covers the entire front line of the fighting with Russia, not just the air and sea, Zelensky said after the more than 8-hour-long meeting. The United States said in a joint statement with Ukraine, following the meeting in Jeddah, that it would immediately lift the pause on intelligence sharing and resume security assistance to Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the onus is now on Russia to take steps to end the war. Meanwhile, the U.S. has been holding exploratory talks with the DRC about a deal granting access to critical minerals in exchange for military support. The DRC has offered exclusive access to its minerals and infrastructure projects, seeking security assistance to combat the M23 rebellion. Over the weekend, the DRC requested an urgent meeting between President Felix Tshisekedi and U.S. President Donald Trump. Joining us now on this show is Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, Nigeria's former Minister of Foreign Affairs. Good morning, Prof, and good to have you on the morning show.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Welcome back. Next time you are about to disappear, can you let us know? Some of us can prepare a list for you.
Morning, sir.
I agree with you, sir. Good morning.
Okay, sir. Anyway, quickly, Prof. Two issues.
Good morning, Ayo.
Two issues. Marco Rubio says the ball is now in the court of Russia. Zelensky also says, well, Russia should be the one to be talked to by the United States. What next? Any guarantees, as Zelensky once asked? And then the U.S. now saying they are also looking for minerals in the DRC. They are looking for mineral resources in Ukraine. Now they are saying they will help in the DRC because they know that DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, in the eastern region, is one of the richest spots in Africa. What does he say about the bigger objectives of international relations?
Well, thank you for your questions. If you don't mind, let me quickly deal with the Congo one first. History is repeating itself. The Congo started as an independent state, as a private property of the King of Belgium, who was the exclusive owner of the minerals in the Congo. And now, how many years later, 200 years later, we are back to the Congo, this time offering its resources in exchange for security. Now, I'm not blaming the president and the government of Congo. They're blaming for this mess and for this disgrace that Africa is about to face is the president of Rwanda, who is the main supporter of M23. And obviously, the government of DRC had come to the conclusion that it needs the support of a major power. Recall that the African states themselves have tried, whether East African Security Community or individually Angola, Uganda, and what have you, they've tried and they haven't succeeded in curbing the rapacious activities of the M23. And so now the government of the DRC has come to the conclusion that it needs a major power. And who is the new sheriff in town? It is Trump that can now guarantee the security in exchange for. So it's a game play by the government of the NRC, of the DRC. But of course, there will always be payment, heavy payment for this. You don't give people your resources and not expect that you will get a fair bargain, especially since why you need them is to curb the rapacious activities of the M23. Hopefully, the president of Rwanda, Kagame, will also be sensible enough to know that he cannot take on the Americans who are on the ground. But let me say this. This is not new. They've been raping the Congo for a long time, but it is just that it's the private companies that have been going after its minerals. Now the Congo itself wants to consolidate whatever it is that is happening on its resources by offering it to the United States. Hopefully the United States will kick out the private companies that have been raping the Congo, and in addition they will help them curb the activities of the M23 and drive them back into Rwanda. So that's what I like to say about the DRC and the offer of its resources to the United States. The main issue is United States, Russia, and the Ukraine. There are so many things to say about this. The first one to say is that President Zelensky mishandled the meeting in the Oval Office. In my life, I never thought I would ever witness such a confrontation between the President of the United States and any other president in the Oval Office in the full glare of the press. From my own limited experience, let me use that as an illustration. When I was a foreign minister, I knew how to behave when I was dealing with the American Secretary of State. It was different from the way I was behaving when I was dealing with the Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom. And it was totally different from the way African heads of states, not foreign ministers, African heads of states, the way they reacted with me as the foreign minister of Nigeria. All the three were different. With the Secretary of State of the United States, I wasn't confrontational. I kind of listened to him and stated my point of view in a very calm and you might say in a respectful way. With the with the Foreign Minister of the United Kingdom, I kind of talked to him like an equal. With African heads of states, they treated me like the foreign minister of the biggest power in Africa. You could say they are dividends. Let me give you, please, an example, if you don't mind. The first time I met President Rawlings of Ghana, he moved to the edge of the settee where he was sitting, and he said to me, "We don't like what Nigeria did. You kicked our people out, and that was not a friendly act." And I said, "Your Excellency, you know, you have a point there, but you started it first. When President Busia of Ghana kicked out our own people first. So really, it was Ghana who did it first." You know, Rawlings pulled back a bit and he said, "Brother, I like your style." So you could see that, I as soon as he said what he had to say, I didn't, not that I confronted him, but I challenged his history. Now, I wouldn't do that if I were talking to an American president. There would have been a way I would have put it. Zelensky was talking to an American president as if they were equals. that was the mistake that he made. But I can understand. Because he's probably been under such stress as a result of this 3-year war with Russia. But nevertheless, he should have learned to control his temper. First point to make. The second point is they set a trap for him and he walked into it. I don't think the behavior of Trump and Vance, his vice president, and even Rubio, the Secretary of State, was that spontaneous, including even that question about his dressing from the journalist.
Profound point around diplomacy and diplomatic engagement and how it affects foreign policy. A number of people are saying that the crisis, I'm coming back now to Congo, a number of people are saying this issue cannot be resolved by force of arms. That, and we're seeing that even from what is happening with Russia and Ukraine, that force of arms will only get you so far. So what we need is a diplomatic resolution. Why do you think here in Africa we seem to struggle with finding diplomatic resolutions, peaceful negotiations and resolutions when we have these types of crises? It seems the AU becomes relatively powerless, whether it's ECOWAS or SADC in Southern Africa. There's the East African Union as well. What are the pieces that need to come together for African diplomacy to be able to find a lasting situation to this over 30-year-old war in Eastern Congo?
Because behind diplomacy is power. That is why people spend more money on the armed forces than they spend on their ministries of foreign affairs and their diplomats. You need power to back up your force. And that's really why I was making that distinction between the way I was treated by the United States and the way I was treated by an African country. The United States, in talking to me, was letting me know that they were the most powerful country in the world. Because of that, they can speak to me that way. The African countries were letting me know that they recognize the power of Nigeria in Africa, and therefore they were speaking to me that way. Power is the engine room of diplomacy.
Okay. Good to see you again, Prof. Always looking dapper, always looking nice. Prof, couple of things.
Hello, Rufai.
Good to see you, sir.
Yes.
Couple of things, sir. So I want to take you back to 1994. Sergei Lavrov was part of those that signed the Budapest Memorandum. And we know what was in the Budapest Memorandum as against protecting Ukraine. Today, it is that same Sergei Lavrov that is doing a deal based on the fact that Russia has broken the Budapest Memorandum. Today, we have a Russia that is encroaching so deeply. Will this peace deal guarantee any trust of Russia? The same Russia that invaded Georgia, South Ossetia, Abkhazia, Crimea, the Donbass region. How can this Trump, that is not a stable human being, get Russia to behave? Are we not just throwing the baby away with the bathwater? Can we trust Russia in all of this? Or have we just led Ukraine to the slaughter slab?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that question. There are many people to blame for this situation we find ourselves. You see, America has not played this game very well. In fact, you've had a series of very weak and inexperienced American presidents, starting with Bush the son, Clinton, Obama, Biden. It was like it was like they were afraid of Russia, of what Russia would do. And each time they tried their hand, Russia would threaten to use the nuclear weapons. Even during this war, at least I can count 7 times that Russia has threatened, if you do this, we have the nuclear war, whether tactical or strategic. Well, for God's sake, so does America. And if I were an American president, I would tell them, don't threaten me, because I also can level you. And if it comes to that, we will level each other. And that is, in fact, what is this doctrine that we have of, nuclear balance between the two. But what American presidents did all through this period was to behave as if they were not a nuclear power, as if, in fact, Russia was more nuclear than they were. So the blame is on the United States. And in game theory, you do what you think you could get away with, whether whether you are dealing with the two cars meeting each other, and at the last minute, who is going to blink? And Russia always felt that do you know that the foreign minister of Russia has been the same man for how many years, for how many decades? Why the United States keep changing presidents, keep changing foreign ministers, and the foreign ministers that they were picking were usually their aides from the Senate, rather than the last foreign minister that they had who knew what he was doing was Henry Kissinger. And there's no way that Russia would have dealt with Kissinger the way it dealt with the United States under various other people. Okay. Now, the issue with what... Yes?
Please go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I should go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The reason why Russia may not get away with this time is that nobody knows what Trump is going to do. Yes, Trump is very unstable, but that may even be an advantage to the Americans and to the Ukrainians, in the sense that you don't know how he will react. I heard him say that if Russia turns down this proposal and continues, surprisingly, he used the word aggression for the first time. He said he will arm Ukraine to the level that Ukraine has not been armed, and that the sanctions he will impose on Russia will never have faced it. He said that. And Russia saying no will be a challenge to Trump. And Trump doesn't like to be challenged. He could even talk to to Putin the way he talked to Zelensky. So that is, but I know he's playing of cards. You never know what hand that Trump will play. It's unstable, it's unpredictable, but that could be an advantage. May I also say this? The offer he made to Ukraine, or people may say not an offer, it was more a challenge to him, that to give the United States access to his minerals. Actually, from the beginning, I saw that as a back way of guarantee for Ukraine. Because with American technicians, yes, I know they are not boots, but with American technicians digging for those minerals, I doubt whether Russia will want to risk continuing the attack on Ukraine and run the risk of Americans getting into the middle.
Prof, yeah, when you mentioned game theory,
yes.
Billy Dudley made it popular in Nigerian political science. I was going to butt in there. But, you have answered the question that I was going to bring up with regard to that in terms of how Russia is likely to react. Everybody playing their own game. But what remains that I would like to ask you is about European involvement. Zelensky is very enthusiastic about Europe, considering the fact that the EU Commission, the UK, and France have tried to intervene to also say, look, we are propping up defense spending and we want to support Ukraine. But Trump doesn't seem to be enthusiastic anymore about the involvement of European allies. Why is that so? And then second, the commercial agreement, which seems to be the major interest of the United States, critical earth materials, raw materials that the US is looking for, would that guarantee that Russia will play ball?
Well, let me answer your second question first, because that was the point I was trying to make, that with the presence of American technicians digging those raw materials in Ukraine, which means presence of America, body and soul, I doubt whether Russia will want to continue its attacks on Ukraine and risk injuring or killing American people, American citizens, because there is no American president.
Sorry, Prof. Despite the fact
Yes.
that Russia has already taken about 22% of Ukrainian territory, would they cede territory that they have captured to
Quite
the United
true.
States? Because they've already
Well, that
taken
is going to be
22% of
part
the
of the
territory.
Yes, but you know they have not really gotten into the negotiation about details of a peace treaty. So far, all they've done is to ask for this 30 days peace. This 30 days
Ceasefire.
ceasefire. Yes, this 30 days ceasefire. That is how far they have gone. They haven't gone into the details of the peace treaty. I believe that once America gets involved and has a stake in the stability there, I think that, you know, even Ukraine is occupying also some of Russian territories. Although the big card is in the hands of Russia, I think that there will be some balancing, some trading. There's no doubt that Ukraine is going to lose. Let us face the fact. Even in the war, Ukraine has been losing territory. But at the end of the day, there is going to be some balancing. It's a game of cards. Or as I say, it's a game of the game theory. Are we going to play chicken? Or are we going to make it a multitask agreement between the two, with America having a stake now in Ukraine being an interlocutor?
Yeah, but Europe. What role for Europe? Europe,
yes.
I'd ask you about Europe. I think
Now,
it's important.
Yes, it is important. You know, I think that the loser in this is the Americans. America was not expecting that Europe will come up with the kind of game it has come up with. Frankly, to me, Europe has challenged the United States that we are not really afraid of picking up the baton that you have dropped. You just think that, you know, Europe is going to be left fatherless or an orphan. But the way Skinner has played the game with France. Remember, Macron had always said from the beginning, Europe should have its own security status that can protect itself. So when what happened to Zelensky happened in the Oval Office, Europe stepped up its game and stepped in and picked up the baton. Trump might have been happy that, yes, finally I got Europe to pick up the baton and take on the responsibility. I saw it as a clever challenge to the United States that they are not going to let Zelensky be sacrificed on the altar of the ego of Trump. And so now Zelensky is not as weak as he was when he was kicked out of the White House. And Europe is not as fatherless or as an orphan as Trump thought it would be. Okay. Now Trump thinks, I've got what I want, security is the responsibility of Europe, but then it means that Europe is less dependent on the United States. Okay. And to me, it's a... Pardon?
No, I was just trying to say, well, we should summarize now so that we...
Yes. So to me, it is a balanced game. Where we are now is a balanced game. But let me now issue one warning. Zelensky should learn to curb his tongue. I even heard what he said last night. He was still talking about ifs and buts instead of seeing that Russia has been put on the burner now. He was still trying to talk as if there are conditionalities. And there was also this woman who is a member of Ukraine Parliament, who also was talking about there are things we will not accept and this and that. They should learn to. There is some level of arrogance that even I cannot tolerate from the Ukrainians.
Okay.
They should be careful.
Well, that's no problem.
They've won a game. I mean, they've won a game, but not the match.
Okay, Prof. Well, on the note about Zelensky watching his tongue, one commentator said it's in the Russian character to always talk straight. Well, I don't know about that. I've not related with Russians. Maybe Vimbai here, who grew up in that region, will know whether or not Russians characteristically talk straight. Well, thank you, Prof, for joining us.